Hey, Garage Logic fans, I do a podcast on the Garage Logic Network that comes out every Wednesday and Friday now, twice a week. But here's an important caveat. There is zero logic available in my show, in the formal definition of logic. Of course, life is a yin and yang kind of thing. There's the logic side, and then there's the what the hell side, which needs to get its exercise. So come for the what the hell and stay for the you've got to be kidding me. MISCHKE, now Wednesdays and Fridays, twice a week.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. 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 Give it to 'em. My name's MISCHKE. It's October. The month of Halloween. And a feature for this month, the bat.
Yossi Yuval is an ecologist and a neurobiologist. He's a professor at Tel Aviv University in Israel, the head of the School of Neuroscience. Yossi Yuval has conducted research all over this world. His work has been covered by all sorts of major media outlets: the New York Times, the Guardian, the Financial Times, the Economist, the BBC, National Geographic. He's a sought-after public speaker, and he's currently a visiting scholar at McGill University in Montreal. I'm bringing Yossi Yuval on board because he's written a book called The Genius Bat: The Secret Life of the Only Flying Mammal. Bats account for more than 20% of mammal species. They're the most successful and most diverse group of mammals, and as I mentioned, the only flying mammal. I like bats. And it's October, the month of bats, so we're talking bats. Welcome to the show, Yossi Yuval.
Hi, nice to meet you, Tommy.
The Genius Bat. It's a lovely title because it says so much right away. The reader knows that they're going to learn about an animal who they have probably misunderstood. I want to tell you of an experience I've had since the early 90s. I got into radio in the early 90s. And beginning with tearing something off the AP wire and ripping it out of a newspaper, or eventually going online and reading stories, time and time and time again, I would read a story. Researchers have learned such and such animal is more sophisticated than previously thought. It's endlessly moving in the direction of greater sophistication. I've never read an article that says, dogs dumber than previously thought. It never goes that way. And I just want to ask you before we start to comment on that.
And I think even more so, every time we discover something about an animal, usually this just brings many, many more questions. So every paper, we write papers, scientific papers. Every paper that I write, usually there are more open ends than we had before we began the research. I do think that the book does more than just explaining bats and how complex they are. I think bats have a very bad reputation. And I think that the book shows, how fabulous they are, how remarkable they are, how much we can learn from them, how much people love them. And the book also talks about bat scientists. So every chapter in the book also presents the history, the life. So I think it's a book about humans, at least as much as it is a book about bats.
There are so many times in the book where a line is delivered that is something the average person wouldn't think or say. You'll be talking about some bat, or someone will be in your book, and there will be this line, how can you not love such and such bat? Or how can you not fall in love with this bat? How many different kinds are there? Second only to rodents, right, for variety?
Yeah, nearly 1,500 species. So it's a huge group and extremely diverse also. We have, bats that have a wingspan of almost 1.8 meters. That's the height of an average human. And some bats they're smaller than my pinky. They're as tiny as my smallest finger. Huge diversity of bats. And, they look differently. They forage, they eat different things. They behave very differently. Actually, that's part of what the book is about how diverse they are.
Now, when you say that there's a bat as big as a human, you do know that Batman is a fictional character.
I don't know if I should say this, but I'm not a big fan of. I have nothing against Batman. I'm just not so much a fantasy movie fan.
So you're talking about a real bat the size of the human. This wouldn't by any chance be that bat that they don't even call a bat. They give it some name like, what is it, a fox something?
Yeah, indeed, these bats are called flying foxes because their faces look somewhat like canine faces, like a fox or a dog. They're very cute. They're very social. They're very communicative. They will emit sound. Some people even raise them as pets in some other countries, even though most of these bats are highly protected and we don't want people to have them as pets. But I know of stories of people who adopted an orphan bat and these bats simply became attached to them, and sometimes they fly out but come back to their houses. So yeah, you could really think of them as almost as friendly as dogs.
You just used the word cute earlier. I'm trying to get there. You have a section in your book of photographs, and I love looking at the bats. I just love analyzing their faces. I've not been able to get to cute. I like them. I like them a lot. I think they're great to have around, and I'm glad that they're around. I'm still struggling with the cute thing, but the number of times in the book it was, how can you not fall in love with this little fella? I thought, well, that's what happens when you're a researcher. You're around them a lot, and beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and pretty soon these things are really cute.
I will just protest and say that bats are objectively cute. I can understand.
All right, I'm going back to the book right now. Objectively.
Studies. If you look at image 29.
29. I'm going right to 29. Let's see.
In the book, yeah, you will see what we call a flying fox, and you will see a face that is, it's just like a dog's face.
I'm going to take it back. 29, that's a cute one. Looks like a red fox.
Exactly. So I think all humans among your listeners would agree that this is a cute face.
On that same page, perhaps to balance it out, you decided to place the two ugliest bats in the history of Earth. Next to the cutest one are two faces I can't even look at for more than 2 seconds without having to close the book.
I will not argue with you about that. Yeah, but we've learned a lot. So I mean, in my work, my lab mostly focused on what we call biosonar. Sometimes we call it echolocation. So basically, it's the ability of the bat to use sound in order to orient, to hunt, to navigate. The bat's sonar system is very similar to human radar systems. Every airplane has a radar system. Today, many autonomous cars have radar embedded. Every ship has a radar embedded in it. And indeed, a lot of what evolution has done with bats is very similar for how radar works. And of course, submarines, of course, use sonar underwater, but bats use sonar in air. They use very low frequencies, right? And we know that low frequencies can see far, right? Because when we are walking to a concert, the first sounds that we hear are the very low frequencies of the bass. So we know that low frequencies, they travel very far. And that's exactly the same trick that bats use. A bat that wants to see far, with sound, will use low frequencies.
It's one thing to know that bats do that. Prior to reading your book, I knew that bats emitted a sound, and depending how that sound echoed, it would determine how they flew, and they would get kind of a sense of the area around them. And I think a lot of people know that. But what isn't known is that doesn't even scratch the surface of what's going on. I mean, the sound is bouncing off sometimes things as thin as the human hair, something they're able to fly around in 0.000 seconds because they picked it up so quickly because this stuff is happening at lightning speed, impossible to believe speed. These sounds are going out everywhere and they're mapping this intricate picture of the world to the smallest detail, and they're having to move not on a dime, on a pinhead. When you get into it, it's overwhelming to me how they're moving around. It's just astounding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm often asked by people, but don't we already know everything about sonar? So no, the truth is we actually, as I said earlier, we just have more questions. For example, we don't know if and to what extent a bat can represent the world in 3D. I don't know how the bat's brain really works exactly. Yeah, as you said, bats can see very, very small objects. We don't always understand physically how they can do that. They can measure distance or time very, very accurately. We don't fully understand how they can fly when there are hundreds of bats around them, which is another riddle. And again, it's also a very applicative riddle because autonomous cars have the same problem. They're all using radar systems and they're interfering with each other. So we're not completely sure how to solve this problem.
If I was a betting man, I would bet that when it is learned what actually is going on, whatever is discovered will be wilder, more interesting, more complex and sophisticated than people predicted. It's just endlessly that direction. I can't wait to find out what you guys learn, but I have a feeling it's not going to be that it's a simpler version of what you think. It's going to be a more complex version, a more interesting version. It's always going that way.
I agree. I mean, sometimes we do find that nature solves things very simply, but it's still remarkable, right? We're still surprised. So, I mean, I'll give you one example. There's a lot of research done today with a worm. This worm can do everything more or less in the world. It mates, it finds food, it can avoid predation, it can learn, and it only has 300 neurons. So sometimes the awe is in the simplicity.
It's a simple creature, you're saying. It's a simple creature, but you're telling me it's doing complex things. And it's just a wonder that it's able to do it with a simple bit of ingredients.
I agree. You defined it better than I did. So the idea is that the behavior is complex and remarkable, but sometimes the solution that evolution finds is a very simple one, and that makes it even more remarkable. By the way, today with AI, the ability to use these very complex models, it allows us to mimic some of the animal's abilities in a way that we could not do before. So for example, one of my PhD students is now training a neural network, an artificial intelligence model, to navigate in the world using sound. So we generated a lot of echoes in a very large environment. We took like a 10 kilometer by 10 kilometer. This is a huge area. And we generated millions of echoes. And we're training a computer model to navigate, to see whether a computer model could learn to navigate through this area like a bat does, using sound only, without any visual input.
I heard you interviewed where you started out asking what the most crowded neighborhood on planet Earth is. And it was a lovely way to get into this particular topic with bats, because you went on to describe a room about the size of an average kitchen being filled with 10,000 bats, thousands and thousands in a small little area, comfortably living together. Why? How?
Some of them roost in colonies that have hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of individuals. They're very crowded rooms with thousands and thousands of individuals, and somehow they coexist, right? So there's no government, there are no leaders in these colonies, there's no police, there's no constitution, and still they manage to coexist. And there are many interesting questions related to this coexistence. So for example, one of these questions I mentioned earlier, when they fly out of the cave, they're all using sonar. Their sonar systems are very, very similar to each other in frequency. Sometimes we call this the cocktail party problem because, imagine that you're in a cocktail party, everybody's talking, and still you want to pay attention to somebody specifically talking to you. So this is one of the problems, but, there are many other problems. For example, a mother leaving this colony, leaving her pup on the wall of the cave. She flies out, she comes back after several hours, and now she has to find her pup amongst 100,000 other pups that are all similar. It's dark, maybe she can't even see it. How does she solve this problem? So there's so many interesting questions that arise in these. And of course, there's the whole question about communication. These bats are constantly also chattering with each other. What are they saying to each other? These are the largest mammalian cities on Earth, bigger than any human city, or maybe similar in size. The density is, 1,000 times higher. And as I said, there's no leadership and no regulations, and still they manage to live like this. So that's why it's so interesting.
Yeah, the no leadership thing is astonishing to me. Like you'd see with a queen bee or with the alpha in a wolf pack or something. That's really astounding. You talked about the mother leaving for a few hours and coming back into this cave, this dark cave, with thousands of bats. Is it not true that they have found that the mother can hear the voice of the pup? And I love that they're pups, by the way. Can hear the voice of the pup, sure as my voice is unique to me. In these thousands of bats, there's a sound that, oh, there's little Bobby.
So yeah, indeed, colleagues of mine have shown that this is, by the way, in the US and in Mexico. They roost in colonies with hundreds of thousands, sometimes maybe even millions. And indeed, the mothers use the sound of the pup. Odor also plays a role there. So basically, they use many sensory modalities in order to to identify their pups.
It was delightful to find out how much learning from the mother there is. A dog, if it's taken away from its mother at 6 weeks or 12 weeks or 6 months, the sounds it makes are going to be the same either way. It doesn't change. But with a bat, if you take it away, you're taking it away from its teacher. It needs to have lessons. And I'm talking specifically about speech now.
Yeah, exactly. You're referring to an ability that we call vocal learning. So like you said, if we isolate a dog, its barking will probably sound the same, but there will not be a major effect because the barking is not learned. Yeah, we have shown, and others have also shown, that bats need this exposure. They need to hear their adults. They need to hear their parents and maybe other adults when they develop their vocal repertoire. And if they don't hear adults, then their vocal repertoire will be inferior. So it will not develop properly. They don't sound the same if they are not exposed to adult bats.
Have you been in a car accident, a boating accident, dealt with a defective product, a slip and fall? Have you been in a motorcycle accident? Have you been injured due to the recklessness or carelessness of another? Ha ha! Wing, wing! Na, 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 na. What the hell got into you there? I didn't do that. Well, sure you did. No, not this part of me. That other part got in there. What the hell's wrong with you? There was another part in there that got in there. Anyway, if you've been injured and are wanting to seek compensation, why don't you call my friends at Bradshaw and Bryant? Talk to them over the phone, lay out your case. They'll tell you if they think you have a case, and if they do, they'll take it on free of charge. You will not pay them a dime unless they get you compensation. So in essence, you have nothing to lose. Why don't you call Bradshaw and Bryant? Despite what it sounded like at the beginning, I care about you. He doesn't mean that. Shut up. And now let's do an ad for Josh Arnold. Josh Arnold is another guy who's going to get you some money. It's all about money, people. Money, 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 money. Rich man. Stop it. Josh Arnold will help you put together a retirement savings plan. And let's face it, you don't know as much about money as Josh does. You think you know a lot, but why don't you try that 48-minute free consultation with him over the phone to find out how much more he knows? And when you learn the difference, maybe you'll take him on. I think you need him in your life. 401ks, IRAs, mutual funds. Josh is a master. He's the maestro. Over 40 years experience, and he's offering you 48 minutes free on the phone. I mean, what do you got to lose? Give him a ring. 952-925-5608.
Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant, LLC, a security and investment advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. Tommy MISCHKE is a paid endorser.
If I were to go to YouTube and put in, show me a cave filled with bats, and I'd watch this video of this dark cave and all this motion and the shadows and these sounds everywhere. If I were the moron I used to be, I would have thought, well, there's just primal madness right there. It's just sounds and these freakish creatures all just screaming and making noises randomly. But what's going on here is every one of those sounds, every one has a very specific purpose. There's nothing random about a single sound I'm hearing.
Yeah, we call it a cacophony. I think that's the term I like for this cacophony. And indeed, if I enter this cave, if I take you to one of these caves as a human, we look up and we hear a cacophony, and it sounds like they're just all, as you said, randomly shouting. We've shown that you can take these signals when they emit vocalizations, for example, when they are fighting over a piece of banana, or when they are mating, for example, or when they're trying to sleep and waking up each other. We can identify what the bats are doing while they're emitting these signals, identify very subtle differences in their sound, in their vocalizations, which show if they are referring to these different contexts. Of course, you can identify the individual, so each individual has its own voice. And also, to some extent, we found that if bat A is addressing bat B or bat C, we can identify that to some extent. So something in the voice changes a little bit, just like when I speak to my boss or to my friend, I will sound slightly different.
Those are just the sounds that you can hear. I mean, how many sounds are being made in that cave that we're not hearing because our ears are not able to pick up that particular frequency?
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about vocal learning and how unusual that is, and how it differs from dogs. Isn't it true that it differs from every mammal, every single mammal, except maybe humans, dolphins, apes? I mean, outside of humans, dolphins, and apes, is there any creature outside of the bat that would experience vocal learning from a parent?
There's a big debate. This is a big question. A lot of the old work could not find evidence for vocal learning. I am cautious when I talk about it because we know today how difficult it is to study this. So in general, you're right. Today, we are only familiar with a handful of mammals, like some dolphins and bats and some others that have vocal learning capacity. But there might be many more who maybe have a limited ability, but maybe a little bit of this ability, and we're just not yet aware of this.
I want to get into a little bit of the flying. You have on the cover of your book, The Secret Life of the Only Flying Mammal. People like to bring up flying squirrels, but they glide. When you watch a bat, it's not just flying, it is insanely sophisticated flying. I mean, I sometimes think of the way you read these reports of people in the military who come upon these UFO sightings and they say the thing was moving like nothing I've ever seen. We have nothing in our technology that can move that way. I think of the bat, watching a bat move. It seems also to defy the laws of physics, what it can do, the intricate flying. And it's doing this with a strange kind of set of wings, isn't it? You describe it as hands. It's basically two flying hands, right, that move. In fact, are they not much like human hands? Don't they have the muscles similar to a human hand?
Yeah, from an evolutionary point of view, these are hands. These are fingers, very different from birds. So the wings basically are skin that is spread in between very, very long fingers. So it's a hand.
And to understand that frenetic, crazy flight, each turn is happening for a reason. I mean, I used to think it was just sort of a frenzied sort of a flight as opposed to a thoughtful one, but it's a thoughtful flight.
Yeah, I mean, again, my best recommendation would be go on Google, on YouTube, and write bat flight.
Yeah.
And there are a few like slow-mo movies where you can see very, very closely. I mean, you can also write me, I'll direct you. And you will see how, as you said, it's not a frenzy at all, how controlled the movement of the wings is. And a bat can basically rotate 180 degrees almost on spot, almost without moving forward. It's really amazing. When a bat is chasing a mosquito or a moth that is moving erratically, the bat has to maneuver in an extremely confined space in order to catch the mosquito. That's a very, very difficult task, and they can perform it.
The Mexican free-tailed bat, is that the fastest bat?
Yeah, that's the bat people have measured that is fastest. It goes above 100 miles per hour. I'm trying to translate kilometers per hour to miles per hour.
About 161 kilometers per hour, 100 miles per hour. That is, again, I mean, when I know what it's capable of, how it can turn, again, a dime is too clumsy. It turns on a pinhead, 180-degree turns, all of that. And then I think of 100 miles an hour. I can understand why you can spend your life studying these creatures. I really can. I also want to ask about this hanging upside down business. So people will think, wouldn't it fall the second it falls asleep and its muscles give out? But those legs are like a brace for someone who has polio or something. They're like a locked-in mechanism, locking in place. They could fall asleep and never have to worry about coming loose.
Right. So actually they have a tendon that locks their legs, so they don't need to use active muscles when they're hanging. And one of the most creepy things that you can see is a dead bat. And sometimes it's been dead for months because you see, I don't want to go into the details, but you see it's still hanging. So you go into a cave and you see a bat on the wall and you come closer and you realize that this is a dead bat, dead for a long time, that is still hanging on the wall.
It also works in their favor because that is the way to take off into flight, to release that lock and fall and let the fall give them the momentum to fly. Because what does happen when a bat is on the ground and wants to fly? Where will it get its momentum? How will it fly when it's just on the ground? Doesn't it need that dropping, the force of that dropping?
Exactly. So just like you said, some bats have a very hard time to take off if they're on the ground. Actually, I have, this is a story I tell in the book. I once entered a cave and on the ground, I saw a mother bat with a pup. I scared her and she found herself on the ground. And she really had a hard time to take off into air. And she was actually trying to get rid of the pup because of this. Of course, I saw this and I immediately left. I didn't want her to get rid of the pup. But it just clarified to me, if I was a fox, this would have been the end of this mother and pup. So it just made it so clear how difficult it is to take off from the ground.
We talked earlier about that bat that had the fox face, and we talk about the offspring being called pups. One way they're just extraordinarily far more fortunate. They have this life that's like the life of a horse in terms of number of years. In some cases, they get 40 years. I was expecting to hear when I was seeing fox face and hearing pup, I was thinking, well, they'll probably get 15 years. But 30, 40 years, and that is due to, I believe you will say, that hibernation period each year, when they slow their metabolism down and hibernate.
Yeah, bats' longevity is one of the biggest riddles, and there are more and more scientists today going into studying this because, of course, we humans, we want to live forever. We don't really know. So one of the things you said is probably accurate, that hibernation probably has something to do with it, right? Because it kind of pauses your age for a few months every year. But there might be many others. So there's probably stuff that is related to their immune system. And there might be many other mechanisms that allow these tiny bats to live so long, longer than anything expected by size, right? Because we know that mammals live longer when they are larger. So for their size, bats are like world record holders among mammals. And we don't really understand yet why.
Is it true that the fruit bat travels 250 miles in a night?
There might be bats that do even more than that. Yeah, we've shown that there is a bat that will fly 100 kilometers one way and then coming back and then also foraging. So in total, it's almost 250 kilometers. Very, very remarkable behavior.
This book, The Genius Bat, The Secret Life of the Only Flying Mammal, is just filled with information like this. And of course, as is always the case, we have not even scratched the surface. We could go on because the creature is as interesting as the cover suggests. The Genius Bat. Yossi Yavel, the author. I'm delighted with your work. I hope to continue to follow your efforts. I'm sure there's a lot more to come. There's obviously, as we've talked about, a lot more to discover. It's all out there waiting for you. You haven't lost any of your passion over the years? This still fires you up every day?
I hope you could hear that when we spoke.
Yes, I did. This has been delightful, and I'm most appreciative of your time.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you very much.
I'd like to talk to you about American Pressure. They sell industrial pressure washers for your business. They also service them. I mean, they service them there at their shop in Robbinsdale, and they have service vehicles that come out to your business. They also have thousands of parts. They've also been at this particular gig since the invention of pressure washers. It's pretty easy to say no one knows more about pressure washers than American Pressure, but let's face it, there are a lot of knowledgeable people out there who run shoddy businesses. There are a lot of knowledgeable, skilled people out there who aren't really trustworthy. So in the end, what you also have to have with all that knowledge, skill, and all that merchandise, and all those parts, and all that talent, you have to be good-hearted. I just want to make sure I'm always dealing with good people, and you are with American Pressure. Will you please make a point of adding American Pressure to your life? I promise you, you will not be sorry. Have you been out to EcoFun Motorsports in Burnsville or Forest Lake? During the summer, I was advertising their e-bikes. I could have been advertising their motorcycles. I could have been talking about their scooters, Vespas. Right now, I want to talk about their snowmobiles. They have a dozen brand new 2024 and 2025 Yamaha snowmobiles that they just want to move out. They just want to move them out. So what are they doing? They're giving you $6,000 off. The Transporter 800cc is an extraordinary Yamaha snowmobile. It's a do-it-all, pull-it-all, blaze any trail all. You're looking at snowmobiles normally $15,500, going for $9,500. I promise you right now, for a new snowmobile, you're not going to get a deal like this anywhere else in the state of Minnesota. Winter is begging you to come celebrate with it. EcoFun Motorsports, Burnsville and Forest Lake. I think it's time to go to the phones. Check in with the listeners. Which listener is going to get a call today? Nancy.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Nancy.
Who?
Is not available.
Who?
Nancy.
At the tone, please record your message.
Who?
Nancy.
Who?
Nancy.
Who? Cha who? Who?
Nancy.
Who?
Nancy.
Who? Cha who? Tell me who?
Nancy.
Who?
Nancy.
Who? Cha who? Tell me who?
Nancy.
Who?
Nancy.
Who? Cha who? Well, it is Nancy.
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 Who? Cha who? I said it's Nancy.
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 Nancy. Who? Do 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 do.
MISCHKE, you got to be kidding me.
This is no joke, my friend.
All right.
Sound a little happier.
I'm just so... This is weird.
It is odd, isn't it? Here we are, a couple of guys alive for this one moment. To quote Jesse Colin Young, a moment of sunshine fading in the grass. Here we are, alive, right now, weren't for billions of years, soon will be gone for billions of years. We just have this one moment. It is weird. It's weird to be alive. It's weird to try to find something to connect us here as we reach for a subject, something we might find to talk about. It might be a struggle, but life itself has been a struggle. None of us thought we'd make it this many years, but here we are. What do we do with this time? What?
My third beer.
You're on your third beer?
Yes, sir.
You know, you've got a last name that sounds like it's the name of a beer. There's got to be a beer called Crawling.
It's part of my heritage.
And you live in Wisconsin, which is the alcohol consumption capital of America. What do you do for a living, John?
I'm retired. I quit trying to make money.
You retired, bought beer, sat down, and you're riding it out, aren't you?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's almost over, John.
I realize.
Was it a good life?
Not too bad.
Maybe that's the best we get. Not too bad. Maybe that's what should be on every gravestone. Not too bad.
Exactly.
Of course, there are those where it was brutal, horrific, torturous.
I've had, let's say, minor episodes of that.
What was the worst day of your life, John?
Oh, I don't know if I want to talk about that. That's kind of boring.
Not to me, it's not, brother.
It was just health-related stuff, and I don't really want to talk about it.
All right, how about if I just take a guess? The Big C?
Yes.
The Big C. Yeah, well, brother, you're still breathing, which means you must have beat that SOB.
It's been since 2018.
7 years. Often they say that's kind of a point at which you can sort of relax.
I am relaxing, and that's why I'm on my third beer.
And don't believe a thing they say about alcohol causing cancer. I don't think they're taking into account that stress also causes cancer, and alcohol takes stress away.
Correct.
And let's face it, I don't recall a lot of cancer in Germany in the 1500s when a fair amount of beer was being slammed.
It's a primary portion of my diet. I believe in it, and I'm going to stick with it.
I get it. It's all right. I know a woman who's had cancer several times, and she doesn't go a night without red wine. Not a night. Every single night she has it. Just loves it. Beat cancer 3 different times. She's in her 80s, still drinking her wine, saying, "Life is good, pour me another." They don't have the same old Hofbrauhaus songs with wine, though. At the Hofbrauhaus in Munich, you can stomp your feet and shout and yell, and here comes a big old gal with jugs. I'm talking the ones to pour the beer in your mug. And with wine, it's Bill Evans on piano, the sun setting in the neighborhood, the golden light streaming into your living room, and you looking out on the lawn saying, "I cut that pretty well." Actually, I don't like tying the lawn into wine drinking because I read one time, this was in a guidebook for traveling the United States. This was a guidebook sold all over the world to people who wanted to travel to the United States, and it was about coming to the Twin Cities. And in this book, it said the following: if Minneapolis is a glass of wine after tennis, St. Paul is a beer after mowing the lawn. I know in Wisconsin it's a whole different thing. What do they say there? Wisconsin is meth after neutering the dog.
Just a second. There we go.
Well, you cracked another. Is that 4?
Yep.
So what did you do with your life? What did you do?
I sold dredges. I sold dredges, and that was the funnest job. I got to travel around and go to all these different places in the United States.
Did you ever go to a dredge convention? One of those great Vegas hotel dredge conventions?
Well, I pretty much did all over the place, yes.
Boy, that sounds like a good time. Talk about drinking. You get a bunch of dredge salesmen together? Yikes.
Well, it was not so much dredge salesman, it was water related.
Water, yeast, barley, hops, I get it. So when you retired and you looked at your life, you realized, I got nothing but time now. Did you say, I'm going to do what I've always wanted to do, and this is it, I'm going to do this, fill in the blank? What was that?
It was probably 2020. I decided that I no longer can be a rock star, but I'll try. And so I started learning how to create music on a computer, basically. And I had some musical background, but I was really crappy at it. I couldn't play the guitar very well and blah, blah, blah. I could sing a little, but I didn't sing. So I put out 4 albums and I put them on iTunes, and they're still there. They still get plays, mostly in like Eastern European countries, because they're kind of angry, because I was angry in 2020.
Why were you angry?
Well, it was COVID and cancer and all the crap that was going on.
Now, you got the cancer, you said, in 2018?
Well, that's when I found out about it.
Did it go into remission?
I kind of look at it like, well, I don't have it bad now. It's coming back maybe, but...
Is this prostate?
Yeah.
Yeah, they can manage that forever, John.
Well, we'll see.
I know a guy who was diagnosed with prostate cancer 25 years ago. He still has it.
I was pretty extreme. I don't want to talk about it.
You were stage 4?
Yeah.
Congratulations on being still around, brother. Seriously. That's no small feat.
No. I kind of said F you to everyone.
I understand the anger.
Yeah.
These songs, John, did they have words or was it instrumental music?
It's all instrumental. I was planning on putting words to them, and I still plan to when I get off my ass. It's the hardest part to record for me.
Mm-hmm. Did the anger subside over time?
Yes. I'm fine. Yeah.
Were you ever married?
I'm still married, yeah.
Oh, you are? So a spouse went through all that with you?
Yep. She's still here.
I've run out of things to talk about, John. I've run through the gamut. I've said all I can think to say. At the beginning of this call, there was some worry we wouldn't find anything to talk about. Anything you want to ask me before we call it a wrap?
I don't know, Mischke. I'm happy you called.
All right. I think that's a nice way to end it. I'm glad I called, too. I hope you get to have a long life and enjoy this retirement. I hope you have a beautiful autumn and a lovely winter. I hope you enjoy your beers and your sunsets. And I really hope that that life treats you better in the coming years.
Appreciate that.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
You guys have been hearing me talk for a while about Minneapolis-St. Paul plumbing, heating, and air. And you know, at least if you've listened to all the ads, you know that every now and then I mention a certain somebody who works there, one of the top guys over at Minneapolis-St. Paul plumbing, heating, and air, has been a pal of mine since I was a very little kid. We grew up together. We did everything together. We've been friends for well over a half century. And he's the number one reason why you want to go to MSP. Seriously, because you've got a guy in your back pocket. The very fact that I'm doing ads for these guys means they got to come through for you. And the very fact that my dear pal is there means they're going to come through for you. So you now have a foolproof setup here. You have your plumbing, heating, and air conditioning guys, and nothing can go wrong. Nothing can go wrong. We will not let you be unhappy. We won't. Minneapolis-St. Paul, plumbing, heating, and air. Have any of you taken me up on bringing a loved one with memory care issues to the Welshire? Anyone out there have a parent with Alzheimer's, a grandparent with dementia, a spouse with memory care issues where you've needed a place like the Welshire? Have you taken them to the Welshire? I'd sure like to hear about it. I'd sure like to hear about how it went. Have you toured the Welshire? I'd like to get your impressions. I really would. I've been talking about the Welshire because I was impressed with them when I went out to visit. I'm sold out in advertising. I don't have to say yes to certain ads because behind that advertiser is someone else wanting to advertise. I can't take on any more advertisers. I've had the luxury of choosing who I want on this show. I've said no to some. I've said yes to some. I was extremely impressed by the Welshire. In fact, I find it very difficult to believe I could ever be as impressed with a memory care center. I think I've been to the best. Let them bowl you over. Tour the Welshire of Bloomington and Medina. Hello there, Maggie.
Finally.
It has been quite a long time since I first started trying to get a hold of you, but believe it or not, that's the story with most people on the list. Most people don't answer the first time, second time, third time. Round and round I go. Keep moving on, doubling back. You know the game.
I do, yes.
Glad to find you around.
Yeah.
What am I catching you doing?
I was just dropping off a rug at the dry cleaners.
So what do you do with your life, Maggie?
Currently, I'm a retired pastoral minister,
What denomination?
Catholic.
A Catholic minister?
Well, a pastoral.
So what does
So-
that mean?
That means that I went to school to get my Master's of Divinity, but the Catholic Church has yet to ordain women.
Why didn't you find a different church then?
You know, it's sort of ingrained.
I hear you. Once a Catholic, always a Catholic. You can't get it out of your bones. I've tried.
Well, so have I.
So you end up as a pastoral minister, which means you give communion to cows?
No, I visited people who were getting ready to change their address to heaven. I loved rocking people to heaven and being with their family.
It's interesting that you loved that. A lot of people would find that hard.
No, that was the best.
That was the best.
That-
I'll tell you what I love more than anything else is watching someone get sicker and sicker and sicker and then croak.
Well, I saw a lot of that.
And you loved it.
I did, because somebody has to be with them. Sometimes family, it's so uncomfortable for them to have a third party come in and just be present. Yeah, it was a good run.
Uh-huh. And did you actually say to the folks when you showed up at the door, "Hi, I'm Maggie. Understand you're changing your address to the new one in heaven"?
When I was a chaplain in the hospital and then the chaplain would show up, that'd be me, they'd go, "Oh, no, this is bad."
They knew that the doctor had pretty much given up. People are expecting one more treatment, and they see you instead. And it's, jeez, are you kidding me? I expected you maybe after 2 or 3 more tries of some alternative stuff. You ever been with someone who saw family members coming to get them?
That's not uncommon.
You ever have anyone have the Steve Jobs experience? Do you know what his last words were?
What were they?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Very close. Very close. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
How many times have you talked to someone in a family after the death who said the person came back for a little visit?
Oh, many times. People come in their dreams. People will wake up in the night. You mean that type of thing?
Sure.
Yeah, they wake up and the loved one who has died is sitting on the edge of the bed.
A lot of sitting on the edge of the bed stories I've heard over the years.
Yep. I listened to your podcast on the near-death experience. That was pretty good.
I never tire of hearing of those near-death experiences. I just love to sit and listen to them. I've probably listened over the years to well over 100.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think if my wife showed up after she died at the end of the bed in the middle of the night, I'd say, "Honey, get in here. We don't sit at the edge of the bed. We get under the covers together, kiddo. Let's roll. Let's see what magic can still occur." After death experience, that end of the bed stuff is just bothersome to me.
Then they're gone.
And then they're gone. Yeah, and I always think that's a little rough. I mean, the quick visit and then they're out of there. I think there should be an explanation. Here's the deal. I get to come back for a little while. I can't stay long. It takes a tremendous amount of energy for me to even be here right now. But I wanted to let you know I'm okay. Sorry, I'd love to stay longer. See you soon. A little sooner than you think, but I can't get into that. I mean, how would you feel if your wife died and they say, "I'll be seeing you soon," and then they say, "sooner than you expect," and then they leave and they're gone? Would that be good news or not? I mean, I picture myself. My wife has died. It's 48 hours later. I wake up in the middle of the night. She's sitting at the edge of the bed. She says, "I can't stay long. Just want to let you know I'm okay and I'll be seeing you soon. And I just got to say, a lot sooner than you expect." And then she's gone. And I'd be going, wait, what do you mean sooner than I expect? So the next day you go get a physical and, you're driving 10 miles an hour to the doctor and you're all worried and you're saying, did she do me a favor? I mean, I want to see her and I want to see her soon. But what's this? See you sooner than you expect. Years of your life are just agony. You're looking everywhere for the next anvil to land on your head. Why did she say that?
The pets come back as well.
When the pets come back and they're at the edge of the bed, you say, there you go. That's where you always were. You know your spot.
Yeah.
If you see my wife, tell her that's the spot for the dog. So what do you do with your life these days?
I volunteer and lead a grief support group, which I really treasure, being with people who are grieving. So before I forget, 1 year, this was years and years ago, I gave you up for Lent. I listened to your radio show, and I said, okay, this Lent, I'm not going to listen to MISCHKE at 10 o'clock. It was rough.
Is that 40 days?
40, and you weren't on Sunday nights, were you? No.
No.
Had you been on Sunday, I could listen to you on Sunday. But, oh, my goodness, that was a long stretch.
I think that's what got you into heaven. I think your ticket got punched.
Oh, by the way, I'm not in heaven yet.
No, but you know as well as I do after hearing that near-death experience, that's where we're all going.
I believe that.
So do I.
I believe that. I've had some great experiences with people. Just blessings.
I admire what you did for those years. I think that's, there is nothing like serving. Not just the gift you give them, but the gift you give yourself and the gift that they give you by allowing you to serve them. It's a lovely thing, probably the highest calling, probably the greatest thing one can do walking on this earth. I remember one near-death experience years ago. It still sticks in my head. It's a story of a woman who, she was dying of cancer, and she died in the hospital and had her near-death experience and then came back. And she knew when she came back, she was going to be fine. I mean, she was at the end of a miserable run of cancer, emaciated. It was the end. And she came roaring back to life. Within a matter of weeks, she was 100%, no more treatment, just came back roaring, filled with the Spirit. But she said, during her near-death experience, she had the classic review of her life that everybody reports, this review of all her life. And she saw herself at camp as a teenager. And she saw the scene where one day she saw another girl sitting by herself on a swing, lonely, sad, all by herself. And she relived the moment where she went over to that lonely girl and gave her some attention and befriended her. And in her near-death experience, it was revealed to her that that moment in her life, doing that for that girl that day, was more powerful in the effect it had on the cosmos in general than if she had been President of the United States. That being President of the United States does less for the world as an act than the act she performed. And that is where she learned that love itself is the most powerful force there is. Nothing touches it. And anybody messing around in any other area is simply wasting their time. That there is one thing we ought to be playing with in terms of energy, and that's that force. Well, I've delighted in our conversation. I'm so happy to have found you at home, and thank you for spending all this time with me.
Peace and blessings be with you.
Thank you.
Take care.
And to you too, Maggie. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that's going to do it for this show. Another one comes and goes. Where they disappear to, nobody knows. But this one's over. Finito. Buonanotte. Talk to you next time.